I sold my Nikon D800 a few years ago because I thought it was getting too old. I felt pressure to upgrade to a more modern mirrorless camera. Judging by the comments on my last video, I can see that quite a few of you still own this kind of older DSLR cameras, and I can see that you're wondering if you should upgrade to a more modern camera. Well, in today's video, I'm going to explain to you why I think that most of these older DSLR cameras are still more than good enough to take great photos. So as I just said, I bought myself a Nikon D800 around 2013 and really enjoyed taking pictures with it. I took some of my favorite photos with this camera. I spent a lot of time walking around the landscape, around the mountain, sometimes even at night, at sunrise, in the evening, putting my Nikon D800 onto a tripod and taking photos of the nature in front of me. And I really liked the quality of the photos I could get out of that camera. At the beginning, I struggled a little bit because obviously, like all cameras at the time, it didn't have any sensor stabilization or anything like that, so I had to be a little bit careful, put my camera on a tripod, use a cable release. But if I did everything right, then the photos were absolutely amazing. And 36 megapixels was really big, especially for the time, so I was able to print nice big pictures. In fact, this poster of the Matterhorn in Switzerland that you can see behind me in my videos, yeah, I took that on the Nikon D800, for example. So I really liked that camera. But then a few years later, you know how it goes. The camera manufacturers bring out new cameras, and at some point, I started to wonder myself if I should upgrade to a new mirrorless camera. And maybe a little bit too quickly, I sold my Nikon D800. And to be entirely honest, I probably didn't think it through well enough. I started to think that it was getting older and that newer, more shiny equipment was coming out. I started to see all of these reports about the new specifications, things like sensor stabilization, IBIS, maybe more megapixels, all of these things, higher ISO, cleaner photos, all of these things started to attract me. So then I decided to sell my Nikon D800 and upgrade to something new. But it's quite telling that I didn't feel really that satisfied with the new camera or cameras I bought afterwards compared to the Nikon D800. And I think the main reason why I wasn't that satisfied was that I didn't feel any huge difference, at least for my needs. I'm not a sports photographer, I'm not a professional photographer, I'm just a hobby photographer who likes to take beautiful photos while I'm out doing my hobbies, while I'm out walking, hiking in nature. So I don't need this insane speed, which, by the way, you could get with some of the more expensive DSLR cameras already. But for my needs, I didn't feel a huge difference. The Nikon D800 already had a 36 megapixel, excellent dynamic range, and it produced files that are virtually indistinguishable from modern mirrorless cameras. To push it even further, I noticed in the comments that some of you own Nikon D850s, which are like absolutely dream cameras, really good DSLR cameras. But if I can be really honest, I think that if a Nikon D850 is not good enough, I'm not entirely sure that a camera upgrade will make such a big difference in the end. The other thing about these older DSLR cameras is that they've been on the market for quite a while, so they're really quite optimized, and we already know where you have to be a little bit careful, but for most of the time, they're actually working quite well. I have a principle in life, and that's that I like to trust people with real life experience. And in photography, that's people who've used their equipment for quite a long time. And again, in the comments to my older video, I noticed that a few people mentioned that they had a Nikon D700, which is even older than my Nikon D800, and that these people mentioned, you mentioned that this camera is still taking really good photos. But really, if a camera like the Nikon D700 is still taking great photos nowadays, then really there is no need to upgrade. I think you will have to focus a little bit more on your photography. Compared to the modern cameras, you might need to use a tripod because there's no IBIS, but that's not a big deal, I think. I mean, there might not be an eye tracking autofocus, no 8K video, or that kind of thing. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but you get my point. These older cameras are still capable of taking excellent photos. And in a way, we're going back to the principles of photography, just speaking about aperture, ISO, shutter speed, and the composition in front of you. So now let's speak a little bit about specifications. And I have to say that this is not absolutely my strength, so bear with me. But I believe that it's important to speak about these details when we're speaking about older cameras compared to newer cameras. If we take Nikon D800, for example, it's got 36 megapixel, is capable of taking 14-bit raw photos, and it shoots at 4 frames per second. And if you take the next one up, or the second one up, the Nikon D850, it's got almost 46 megapixel, 153-point autofocus system. And compared to modern systems, well, yeah, they might be a little bit better. They will have the IBIS and things like that. But depending on your needs, depending on what you're doing, it might only be a small difference compared to the price you're going to pay for this upgrade. Now let's talk a little bit about emotions, because I think that's important as well. The truth is that I didn't sell the Nikon D800 because it wasn't capable of taking great pictures anymore. In fact, I took some of my favorite photos with it. I sold the camera in a way because the internet told me that it was an old camera and that it needed to be upgraded, because I looked through all the spec sheets, the reviews and all of that, and came to believe that indeed my camera wasn't good enough anymore. And the regret I could feel in the weeks and the months after selling my old camera wasn't about the picture quality, but it was about having lost a tool that was perfectly fine for the job. So in fact, what I'm going to do at the end of this video is that I'm going to show you a few of my photos that I took with the Nikon D800. For a change, you're going to see color photos for me. Nowadays, I take mainly black and white photos, but at the time, it was still mainly color photos. But at least you see the reason why I really like that camera. So my conclusion is that if you own a Nikon D700, D800, Canon 5D Mark II, these kind of cameras, you don't need anyone's permission to keep using them. They're still more than good enough. The real question is it still technically working? Are you still happy with the result? If the answer is yes, then by all means keep using it. But on the other side, I noticed also a few people in my comments who said, well, the camera is breaking apart, I'm trying to use it. I mean, I totally understand if there are some valid reasons to upgrade, but if it's just some kind of intangible feeling that you think the camera is old, but it takes amazing photos, well then maybe think about it a little bit more. Maybe you can still use it for a bit longer. I think the key takeaway here is that the best camera is not the newest one. It's the one that you know the best already, the one that doesn't get in the way, and the one that you will always take with you. So now I'd like to ask you, do you still own an older DSLR camera or an older camera, digital camera, maybe a film camera even? What are your thoughts about upgrading? Are you happy with what you have right now? Do you sometimes have doubts? Did you do the same as me, sell your old camera and then feel some regrets afterwards? I'd love to hear your perspective. And if you don't agree with me, just let me know as well. I mean, I'm always happy to hear everybody's perspective on this. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm now going to show you a few of the photos I took with my old Nikon D800. I hope you have a beautiful day, and I hope to see you in the next video.